Yeah, it's kind of weird that the authorities are taking notes on who you're having dinner with, but, it's for the public health, so submit. It's not like politicians would ever misuse that information or anything, so sleep well. And don't forget to send in a blood sample so the government can sequence your DNA for public health reasons. Nobody in America is enjoying all of this more than Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. It's always the most mediocre people who love fascism the most. It gives them power they never dreamed they would have, and indeed don't deserve. Whitmer wants this moment to last forever. She's enraged that anyone would dare to complain about it. She went on ABC yesterday and dismissed any citizen who disagrees with her, needless to say, as a racist. And then she promised that disobedient citizens in Michigan, serfs, will be punished with even more severe lockdowns.
These have been really political rallies where people come with Confederate flags and Nazi symbolism and calling for violence. This is racist and misogynistic, and I ask that everyone who has a platform uses it to call on people to observe the best practices promulgated by the CDC and to stop encouraging this behavior, because it only makes it that much more precarious for us to try to re-engage our economy, which is what everyone says they want us to be able to do.
Yeah. Not only is it racist, it's dangerous to the public health and racist. Whitmer was later asked if she had evidence, proof that protesters were actually spreading the virus, and you'll be surprised to learn she didn't. And by the way, that question is misogynistic, so shut up, bigot. Some people in Michigan are finally growing tired of this performance. Carl Mankey owns a barber shop. He would like to continue cutting hair. Authorities won't let him do that. They prefer to send him welfare checks instead. That is not the country he wants to live in, though.
I'm 77. I've always worked. I've never looked for handouts. I don't even know what they are. I had somebody call me and say, well, why didn't you get on food stamps? I don't want food stamps. I want to work. When our governor said, we're going to have another 28 days, it knocked me to my knees. I couldn't take another 28 days. All of us as Americans need to begin to take responsibility for ourselves. I feel that the government is not my mother, never has been. Right. Matter of fact, this administration, for the most part, I've been in business longer than they've been alive.
Gretchen Whitmer was not amused by that. Government is not my mom? Misogyny. And by the way, cutting hair is racist. So Whitmer's administration tried to shut Mankey down with a court order, because there's nothing else going on in Michigan right now. A judge resisted that. It was too far. So Whitmer's lackeys simply revoked Mankey's barber's license. Now he's shut down for good and will be even when the lockdowns finally end. That'll show him. Stop whining and take your welfare check, bigot. This is insanity, obviously, and at some point we're going to look back in shame as we consider it. Politicians will always seize the maximum amount of power they can. That's why they went into politics in the first place, to fill that empty space inside. The question is for the rest of us. Why are the rest of us allowing this to happen? We're joined now by Fox senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, thanks so much for coming on. I mean, there does seem to be a point where the power they're exercising is so illegitimate that people should say something about it, no?
Well, yes, profoundly people should say something about it. Yesterday, the Supreme Court of Wisconsin did, when it said to the governor's people, you do not have the authority for the lockdown, only the legislature does, and the legislature's told us they don't want it, and you cannot write your own laws and enforce the laws that you have just written. That violates the Wisconsin Constitution, and by the way, the American Constitution, and therefore the lockdown is ended. I don't expect the same thing to happen in Michigan, but Tucker, the definition of a free state is one where the laws are written to uphold personal liberties. The definition of a police state is one where the laws are written, legitimately or not, to uphold what the government wants. We are not gradually, but all of a sudden, in a period of 6 weeks, going from a free state, this is happening in all 50 states, to a police state. The example you just cited in Michigan is violative not only of Michigan law and the Michigan Constitution, but the United States Constitution as well. she can't take his livelihood away from him because he spoke out against her.
Well, exactly.
That's what the fascists did that we fought against in World War II.
So our leaders governed by the consent of the governed, by the rest of us. What's so interesting is they expect the population to obey their word as if it were law, which it is not. But at the same time, to continue to pay taxes and abide by their licensing schemes, etc. I mean, at what point are people justified in saying, you know, if you're not going to govern legitimately, maybe I don't need a license to run my barbershop?
Well, civil disobedience is probably the next step if these governors do not come to a sense of reason, Tucker, because the authority that they are enacting is absolutely illegitimate. So you talk about Jay Inslee in Washington. As we speak, he's beginning to open up restaurants. But his health inspectors will tell the owners of those restaurants, we need the name and address of everybody that's in here, and if you don't give it to us, we'll take away your liquor license, or we'll take away your license to own the restaurant. So what do you do when you go to a restaurant and they ask you for your name and address? You have no obligation to give that to them whatsoever. You have no obligation to give them any credit information or any personal information about you, and the government has no right to collect that. They will try to do it, and they will not do it by enacting legislation that was written by the representatives we sent there, but they'll do it by unaccountable, unelected health inspectors.
That's exactly. They'll use the regulatory state to bolster their power. The least democratic means of doing it. Democracy is dying. I mean, that's a sub-theme here, I would say. Judge, thank you for reminding us of that. Great to see you tonight.
Of course. Likewise.